As March Madness is in full swing, Seton Hall's women's basketball team is living it up. The Pirates defeated Drexel in an all-time classic and advanced to the Elite Eight in the WNIT tournament. There is some madness on the men's side as well, but this is taking place off the court. Over on the softball diamond, Seton Hall is having a quality beginning to the season, currently sitting at 4th in the Big East. Do the women have what it takes to make a run at the title? How will the men fare next year with a new man running the team? And can the softball team keep up this good form? My panel will discuss all this and more. I'm Louie Pasculli, and this is Hall Talk. Hello everyone and welcome back to Hall Talk. We have a lot to talk about on this episode, but first I want to ask you guys how you're doing. John, I'll start with you.
Yeah, Louie, I'm doing really good today. I'm really excited to talk with both of you guys about all things Seton Hall sports. It's certainly an exciting time of year and just excited to break it down with you guys.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here too. Excited to be next to John. Excited to be with you, Louie. There's a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it.
You're right, and right into it is exactly what we are going to do. Seton Hall's women's team, to put it frankly, they're balling. They've made it to the Elite Eight with a W over Drexel in a game where Walsh Gymnasium was one of the loudest I've ever heard it. What are your main takeaways from this fantastic win from the Seton Hall Pirates?
Yeah, Louie, we can even go back to postgame with Coach Pizzella. Walsh Gym was one of the loudest it's been in years. Just in that entire game, it was just so exciting, and I think the team really fed off of that. We saw the women's team just play so exceptionally well against a really good Drexel team that was having one of their best seasons in program history. And we know how lethal this Seton Hall women's team can be. Lauren Parklane has been sensational all year long. She had another 29-point performance in that game. But the real unsung hero of that game, I think, was Katie Armstrong. Throughout this whole postseason run, there's been sort of a role player that's been stepping up night in and night out for the Pirates. And for that game against Drexel, it was Katie Armstrong. She only had 4 points, but she had a couple of rebounds, a couple of steals, and I think one of the biggest baskets of her Pirates career when she stole the ball and went coast to coast. So a lot of contributors this time of year, and it was a huge win, and now they're in uncharted territory here in the Elite Eight.
Yeah, John, you literally stole what I had written down. I had Katie Armstrong on here too because she really was amazing. People forget how good she was. She was the star back at Fairfield where she came from. Now she's kind of taken just a smaller role, but really showed how important she can be tonight. I think I just have to really start, though, with congratulating the women. They have played absolutely amazing over these last couple months, and it really are the stars of Seton Hall right now. And the stars of this team took over when they needed to. Outscored the Dragons 31-20 in the fourth. That really was the reason they pulled away. They were down 7 at one point, but this veteran group, this group of Lauren Parklane, Sydney Cooks, Andra Espinoza-Hunter, Maya Jackson, all scored in double digits because they all wanted to win this game. The just absolute, I can't even think of the word, just the will to win was there for every player on the sideline. They were all getting up, all getting excited because they all really wanted to win. This is a team I feel that could really win the whole tournament if they keep playing like that and they keep having that energy.
And what both of you said is correct. Katie Armstrong leading the charge late in that game. I got a bit concerned myself at the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth, where Drexel went on a run. They were up by 5 or 7 points, and I thought, this could be where the wheels fall off, right? But Seton Hall did not do that. They stayed calm. They played together. They played with that bond that we've seen them really play with all year, and they persisted through. They scored some big buckets they needed to, and the final score was 78-71. So at the end, they really pulled away, really made it a convincing victory when it really came down to it. So what an all-around fantastic win, and it was really great to see all the fans there in full form, helping and willing this team to victory. But we could talk about this game forever, but I think the star of this game had to have been Lauren Park Lane, dropping 29 points. What a performance from her, because if you remember, she started off the game relatively slow. She didn't really have too many points in the first quarter, but those next three, she was lights out, making threes, making layups, getting steals, assisting the ball. She ended up with a double-double too, having double-digit assist numbers. So I'll ask you guys, is Lauren Park Lane, can we consider her the second best player in the Big East, or is that too much?
I certainly don't think it could be too much. I have written down here, the Big East, I feel, is really coming up in women basketball. It used to just be UConn, and that's been it. But now, Creighton, they're in the Sweet 16. Villanova had a very good season. They made the NCAA tournament. And Seton Hall doing very well in the NIT, along with Marquette. Marquette just lost in the Sweet 16, but they were able to make it there as well. So the Big East is getting better. UConn is going to have some competition soon. And some of these players are getting up there. Lauren Park Lane, Maddie Siegrist of Villanova, she won Big East Player of the Year. So it's hard for me to put Lauren Park Lane at number 2 because there is a lot of talent right now surrounding the Big East and women's basketball. But I think she can keep working. If she keeps playing like this, 29 against a very good Drexel Dragon team, she has to be in that conversation.
And even just outside of those players, in terms of point guards in the Big East right now, she's got to be easily among the top, 3 or 4. I think even in the country right now in terms of point guards and what she's done this season, some of the stats she's been able to have all season long, I think she certainly deserves that and much more. Even when her shot isn't always on, which, 9 times out of 10 it is this season, the assist numbers, having that program record she set for the assists in a season, just the amount of big performances she's had. She shattered her own records in a whole bunch of games this year. But she's just such an important part of this Pirates team, and obviously Seton Hall would not be this far into postseason play without her. But she really just, I think, enhances the play of everyone else around her because, like I just mentioned, as a facilitator, she's able to just distribute the ball, every possession. She gets other players like Sydney Cooks. She has a good rapport with her. Espinoza-Hunter, who sometimes when her shot isn't always on, she's able to still find her inside and get easy looks. And just all around, she's just so important. And if you're talking about like an MVP of the team, for someone who's able to score at will and just make everyone around them better, Lauren Park Lane's the definition of that.
And that's exactly where I wanted to go, John. For UConn, if UConn doesn't have Paige Beckers, obviously Paige Beckers is great, but if they don't have Paige Beckers, UConn's still making the NCAA tournament. If Seton Hall does not have Lauren Park Lane, they're not going anywhere. Lauren Park Lane is Seton Hall, and she is the player that they need. That 29 was important 29. It's not stat padding. It's not, hitting some crazy threes of when we were down. She took over that game along with all of the rest of this veteran group, and that's what makes her so different than the rest.
And I think something else we have to look at is her height. She's 5'5". How many point guards you guys know that are 5'5" and doing the thing that she's doing? One, her name is Lauren Park Lane. Another thing is her leadership. If you look in team huddles or during timeouts, during stoppages, she's always hyping up her team, always being that positive impact and that positive player. She's the teammate that you want to be, you want to play with. So Coach Bozzella even said it in the post-game. He doesn't have to say that much in the team huddle or timeout because it's Lauren Park Lane that's hyping up her teammates and really helping them, willing them to win. So her leadership ability, her ability to do the great things that she does at her height, and also statistically in the Big East, she is 3rd in points and 1st in assists on the entire year of all players in the Big East. So I think there certainly is an argument to be had about her being one of those top players in the Big East. And in this tournament, I think if Seton Hall makes a run and, knock on wood, wins this thing, I think she really could be one of the best players in this entire WNIT tournament. But speaking about the tournament as a whole, Seton Hall has been playing well. There's no question about that, right? They will go on the road, though, and play Columbia University in this Elite 8 round. Do you think they have the firepower to make a run and really have a good shot at winning this whole thing?
Yeah, Louie, I think the Pirates have as good a chance as anyone else. We've seen it time and time again in this tournament. A lot of people weren't expecting Seton Hall to make it this far. Obviously, they knew how talented this team has been. But I think the Big East tournament, going back a couple of weeks, really was a good indication of what we could have expected from this team. I think by them defeating Creighton, I'm going back to that Saturday night 9:30 game, where they were able to really come back and defeat a really, really good Creighton team, who obviously we know was NCAA tournament bound. that game, I think, turned around their whole postseason play. Ignore the Villanova game because I think they were just gassed by then for the amount of games they played and won in a couple of nights. But in this tournament now, against Columbia, who's coming off that really tough game against BC, but let me give both of you guys a stat out of that one. Columbia won that game when they were 0 of 20 from 3. And that was a game they were down by double-digit points, and they were able to rally. Similar to how Drexel in their previous game before Seton Hall, they came back from a large deficit as well. So Columbia is another team very similar to Drexel, where they've faced a lot of adversity in this tournament, and Seton Hall is going to really have to finish strong because we know sometimes the shooting might not always be as efficient as it is towards the end of the game as it is in the beginning. So they just got to have a whole collective effort, and I think a lot of people once again have to step up. And it's going to be another player like Amari Wright, who did it against Fairleigh Dickinson, Katie Armstrong, who just did it a couple of nights ago. It's going to take another player outside, I think, of the big three, even big four, Maya Jackson, for the Pirates to be going hopefully to the Final Four.
Yeah, John, you make a great point. I will say, though, like, for a team like Columbia, who's a very tough team, to not make a 3 and still be able to win that game, you have to be a good team. But if Columbia does not make a 3 against Seton Hall, they're not going to win. Seton Hall is just playing too good right now. Just looking at these stats from this last game. Seton Hall, 28 for 52 from the floor, 53%. You hit 53% from the floor, you're going to win most games. 11 for 21 from three-point range, 52%. You're hitting over every shot you take. There's a 50% chance you're making it at this point. It's going to be very difficult for most teams to beat you. And if they come out with that energy and with that pride of, you know, for someone like Andra Espinoza-Hunter, who's running out of time, you know, she's no more years of eligibility. This is it for her. She wants to win. For someone like Sydney Cooks, I think she still has one more year, but even her running out of time. Someone like Katie Armstrong running out of time. They want to win this thing. They're a veteran group. You know, even someone like Lauren Park-Lane, she's got 2, maybe 3 years left. She wants to win it now. Why save it for next year when you can win it all right now? Seton Hall, I think, is playing its best basketball at the most important time.
Why not us, right? Why not us? I feel like this team embraces that kind of mentality. They will go out and they will fight and claw for every little thing that they get. I truly believe that they have a why not us mentality. Now in the Elite Eight, I mean, it's just over the horizon. One game at a time, don't get me wrong, but they see the big picture. It's all coming together. It's all starting to form. This is a team that I think is built to go very far, led by Coach Bozzella, who has done a fantastic job all season. You know, there was some adversity in the beginning of the season with Andra Espinoza-Hunter and whatever happened with her and her teammates, but we wouldn't be able to tell, looking at how they've been playing recently, that even happened. So we talk about, you know, Columbia overcoming adversity. I mean, Seton Hall has done the same thing, though, and I think having that in their arsenal or repertoire or past even is going to be so beneficial going forward because it just strengthens their bond together and how well they've been playing. And I want to talk about Maya Bembry for a little bit. It was in the VCU game where she had 11 rebounds and 0 points. She was fighting on the glass in such a ferocious manner, and it just goes to show that for this Seton Hall team to prosper, not every player needs to score points. I mean, those 11 rebounds were very, very key in Seton Hall, you know, getting out to that big lead, which eventually would have they coasted to a win. Well, I shouldn't say coasted, but the lead helped them get to a win. If it wasn't for her rebounds, that never would have happened. And I think just looking at her, you know, a story like that is any one of these players can do it. Lauren Park-Lane, Andra Espinoza-Hunter. You know, it doesn't have to be scoring. It could be passing the ball, or it doesn't have to be passing the ball. It could be playing really good defense and shutting down the best player of the opposing team. So if any team is built to make a run, I think it's Seton Hall. Am I biased? A little bit, but regardless, I still think Seton Hall, you know, has the makeup and the not physicality, but the mentality of really making a deep run in this WNIT tournament. Now, I want to transition to the other side. On the men's team, we're going to see a few different faces here with this men's team as Coach Kevin Willard is out. He is gone as the Seton Hall head coach of the men's basketball team. He is over at Maryland. He will be the head coach there. And now there have been some talks about Shaheen Holloway being the next Seton Hall head coach. He has some ties. He was a former Seton Hall basketball player. He is an alum from here. And right now, though, he's leading his St. Peter's team, who was a 15 seed, by the way, all the way to the Sweet 16 and doing a really fantastic job coaching over there. So first, I want to ask you guys, you know, your thoughts about Willard's departure, and then also what you think about a potential new head coach in Shaheen Holloway.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad to see Kevin Willard go. This is a sad picture to see. Nobody
It
wants
is.
to see Kevin Willard gone. But a lot of people are hating on Kevin Willard right now. I have a hot take, guys. I might have to take off the jacket because it's so hot. Kevin Willard was a great coach. He really was a great coach. Thank you, Louie. I mean, Kevin Willard took a Seton Hall team. I know we're a little younger, so maybe we don't remember, but Seton Hall was an afterthought before Kevin Willard. They were very good back in the 80s, parts of the 90s, and then they were nothing. They weren't making tournament runs. They were just kind of lost in the Big East. Kevin Willard comes in, a coach from Iona, someone not many people are thinking of, takes this team to where at this point Seton Hall is thought of as a perennial NCAA team, NCAA tournament team. That is hard to do. To make the NCAA tournament, not many teams make that at all. In the history of their university, Seton Hall's made it. It's been 5 times, I believe, under Kevin Willard. So to see Kevin Willard go is something that, was there problems? Was there offensive issues? Was there, maybe he wasn't the biggest, loudest guy? Yes, but Kevin Willard is a great coach, and it's going to be definitely hard with him gone.
Yeah, Michael, you brought up a lot of great points about Kevin Willard, and I think at this point in his Seton Hall career, I think it was a good time to finally make that change, because we knew for years there were some rumblings that he was linked to schools like Maryland. And like you mentioned, Michael, before Kevin Willard, Seton Hall's program was in a really tough spot. There wasn't a ton going for it as compared to it is now. And I think Kevin Willard built such a good foundation that we've demanded so much excellence from this team because they keep making the tournament. Like you mentioned, despite having only one win in the tournament, Pirate fans want more, and they want to, go farther into the tournament, get out of the first weekend. And Kevin Willard got him into that spot, and he really did a good job laying the groundwork. And I think Pirate fans should be giving him his flowers throughout his whole career at Seton Hall. But at this point in his career, I think it was a good time to finally make that move. There was a better chance, a lot of seniors and graduate students potentially moving on for next year, a whole new, different, crop of players, younger guys. And if Coach Shaheen Holloway is able to come to Seton Hall, it could be just absolutely game-changing, because Seton Hall, at this point, at the time we're recording this, they're going to be playing the Sweet 16. If they're able to go in even farther, I'm sure they're going to be even bigger programs going after Shaheen Holloway, just like Seton Hall is. But we know the ties that he has with Seton Hall, a former player, former assistant. He helped recruit, along with Coach Willard, a lot of those players in those mid-2010 teams. So if Coach Shaheen Holloway can become the coach of Seton Hall, it'll definitely be just, I think, a great fit. But Pirates fans should not be, hating on Kevin Willard or anything like that towards the end of his career. They should be thanking him for building such a good foundation for Seton Hall men's basketball. This is a program of excellence now, and it's just time for another coach to take him to an even higher level.
Yeah, to the people, to the fans that are saying, "Oh, Kevin Willard's just going to leave us," and that's all we meant to him. That's not true. Yeah. This is how it works, and it's the same thing. If Shaheen Holloway comes to Seton Hall, the coaches move on to the bigger schools. And Kevin Willard has made such a name for himself, has put Seton Hall on the map so much as a smaller school in New Jersey with not a lot of resources. Here at Seton Hall, there's not a lot of resources for the basketball teams and a lot of the sports teams, but he put them on the map so well that he can get these offers like Maryland, and now he gets the job. So congrats to Kevin Willard, and certainly thank you.
And I completely agree with what both of you guys have said. Now, I know there was a little bit of mixed feelings with how he was leaving, and there was a quote that was taken out of context where he said he'd be really happy if he was gone, but I don't really think that was the case. I mean, also, you have to remember, as you guys have mentioned great things, to put that in perspective, he's the second most winningest coach in Seton Hall men's basketball history. So really a culture change, a fantastic job from Willard throughout his entire tenure. I will not have any hard feelings with him leaving. I wish him the best. I mean, coming to Seton Hall, the basketball program and how good it was a little bit of a deal breaker for me, because it was between me and here in Monmouth. And so this basketball team having such a great program and it's such a great culture here at Seton Hall, it really drove my decision. And as for a new coach, in Shaheen Holloway, give you a little bit of trivia. The last time a New Jersey school was in the Sweet 16, it was Seton Hall, led by Shaheen Holloway. Now, as a coach in St. Peter's, he is in the Sweet 16 again with his team. I think it'd be a fantastic fit here at Seton Hall if he was to come over. But I want to move now to the softball diamond. The softball team has had a relatively good start to the season. Right now, they are 12 and 11, 3-3 in conference play. They just played today, and they have a doubleheader as of now recording. They've won one game of that doubleheader. They're currently playing the second game of that doubleheader right now. What do you guys think of the start of the season so far? Do you think this is sustainable? Do you think they can continue this and hopefully piece together a pretty good season?
Yeah, Louie, I think I'm going to take a word you just said about the word culture. I mean, having Coach Angie Churchill here in her first season at Seton Hall, I feel like the culture has shifted just a little bit. I mean, it's slowly but surely, progressing really for really good things right now. They're now 12 and 11 now as we're recording this. They were 11-11 heading into today. But I think her scheduling of the out-of-conference games they had in the first, 8 to 9 games or so, where they had those really tough tournaments, but they were winning 2 or 3 games out of them, which is so important for this team. And there's just so much talent on this team as we really talk about it. They have a lot of youth on the team, but also some veterans. I know we'll get to Shelby Smith, but Abby Wingo. There's so many different players that a lot of them batting over 300. The pitching, it's been relying heavily on Shelby Smith, but I think overall the team's in a really good spot, and the Big East is as tough as it's ever been. It's like that in every sport. But I think the culture's definitely shifted for the better, and when they're playing, teams that are really tough out-of-conference opponents to start the year and really get the chemistry going, which this team you can clearly see is I think there's a lot of chemistry between a lot of the players. I think the offense is going to keep coming as Big East play rolls along, and it's going to be important to have a strong, end to the year.
Yeah, 100%, John. I mean, you made great points. This softball team, they've already had their best season win record since 2019. This team was not a very good team this past couple of years, but Angie Churchill has come in and brought an amazing freshman group. 9 freshmen are on this team, and ones that really stick out: Lauren Kane, Jenna Blevins, Taylor Hill. They've all really been amazing. All have given this softball team something that they seem to have been missing the past couple of years. They really are putting the pieces together, and I think this team could be someone that competes. Angie Churchill is known as the reviver of programs. She's done that a couple times, and she's bringing that to Seton Hall.
And I would absolutely agree with you guys. I had the pleasure of watching them and calling a game with one of our producers, Ryan Johnston, just the other day, and it was a doubleheader. The first game, it did not go as planned. They lost, I believe it was 8-1 or 9-1, but I didn't see them moping around. I didn't see them, get in their bag or be sad. They went out the next game, and they really showed why they're a resilient team. They ended up winning 8-6, and it just proved the kind of team that this Seton Hall team is. I mean, John, you mentioned about the hitting. So many players are contributing around the plate, in the batter's box, hitting over 300. There's quite a few players with power. Shelby Smith, who we're going to talk about, has quite a bit of power. Lauren Hill as well. Lauren Hill in the field defensively, she's made some great plays at shortstop, just from the little sample size that I got to see. And I know for a fact that in the stat sheet, she also does not make very errors, and she continues to make those really good plays and to help this team, go forward. So if they can right now they're 4th in the Big East. So if they can continue this form, they can continue playing the way they are. I really think that they can do some damage. I think that they're going to go forward and maybe not be one of the top teams, but definitely that second tier of 3rd, 4th in the Big East. With pitching, right now they only have 2 pitchers with Sydney Babbitt and Shelby Smith. When they get some more pitchers in that rotation, it's definitely going to help them. But the pitchers right now are doing very, very good. I mean, Sydney Babbitt went out there and pitched over 125 pitches, so that's not an easy feat to have done. But she did it, and even though she gave up some runs early, it didn't get in her head. She kept grinding, she kept pushing, and she eventually finished the game. It didn't go how she wanted it to, but regardless, she had the mentality to be able to go out there and keep going. Now, a star of this team that would stand out beyond everybody else is Shelby Smith. I mean, just last week, she won Big East Player of the Week, and sorry, John, to steal your stat, but she leads the team in both home runs and ERA, so kind of a Shohei Ohtani-esque stat there, getting it done both in the circle and at the plate. Are we seeing potentially a Big East Player of the Year and one of the best softball seasons we've seen in a while?
She 100% has been amazing. She really has been huge and a big part of why Seton Hall has been so great this season. I don't think I'm going to go as one of the best in a while, maybe best all time. Just Seton Hall's had some good players. Maybe we'll put the brakes on that one, Louie. But
that's fair.
She certainly has been very, very big to this team. 7 home runs. She didn't have one in her career before this year. So 21 RBIs on the year. You brought up the other stats. She's been huge, and it's been a big reason as to why the softball team is where it is right now.
Yeah, and I'll add one more thought to that. You know, they're asking a lot of her right now, like we just mentioned, like the Shohei Ohtani stat with home runs in the ERA, but she's pitching, you know, starting games. She's even coming in relief because, like we mentioned, it's her and Sydney Babbitt is the main 2 pitchers of this Pirates team, and it's just so important that you can have a person, especially a pitcher, that can start games and also come in relief and, you know, shut down a game if need be. I'm sure in that Monmouth game she did some of that, and I think it's so important to have a player like that. But they also have to have some other contributions, I think, outside of that, especially in the pitching department by the end of the season, to really, you know, take some of the load off her back, just because it can be strenuous for a full, you know, 50-game-plus season. But it's definitely an incredible run to watch, and we just got to hope that she can ride it out for the rest of the year.
And I would agree that I think some pitching has to come out of the fold. They have a few players injured right now, but getting them back into the rotation, as I mentioned previously, will definitely help her take the load off Sydney Babbitt. Hopefully won't have to pitch 125 pitches. That is a high number for even a softball pitcher who can pitch a little bit more than baseball. It's still a high number regardless. I would agree. I think I got a little ahead of myself asking if it's one of the greatest seasons ever. But I think if she keeps it up, though, she can make a case for the Big East, though, as not very many players are as proficient both at the plate and in the circle. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on as the season progresses. But that will do it for this episode of Hall Talk. For John Heite and Michael Stamm, for our producers Liam Plate and Ryan Johnson, my name is Louie Pasculli. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time.